All right. Hopefully we've got folks back together. Looks like I got a bunch of hands there and some backs. So before we actually discuss the article, yeah, if you've got your hands up, you can go ahead and put them down. But let me, first of all, give you a very brief introduction to the wiki. So back on our Moodle site, I've created a wiki activity, and it's the one that the icon for it kind of looks like a little woven four things woven together. And the main difference with a wiki compared to some of the other activities we've done is that your users, your students, can create pages of content on the spot. So essentially, they can build what's really a little website with pages that link to each other, content that links to each other, and so on, without needing to actually go into a website or something like that. So later on, we've got some groups here, and those groups are going to, each group already has its own page that contains the video that you're going to be watching, and so on. But also, each group will then be creating 3 subpages off of their main page where your content is going to go. And I'll show you how to make the pages. It's very simple. But that's basically what a wiki gives you, is the ability to have students create pages of content that are then interlinked with each other, and that they can create and edit and so on. So what I've created as part of this wiki is a summary page. And so I'm going to head to that page. And right now, all I did was put a header on the page and a link back to the instructions. But I'm going to go into edit mode here. And in terms of editing, this is basically just like any of the other text types of pages that we have in Moodle. You've got all of the same editing functions and features and so on that you would if you were working in any other sort of a text box. So I'm just going to kind of use this to take some notes and write down some takeaways. So who wants to start us off? Maybe sort of big picture. What were a couple of big picture key items that came out of the article that kind of stuck out at you, of things to keep in mind or things to do? Kathleen, go ahead.
So one of the biggest things would definitely be keeping it simple, right? Like in everything, the content, the graphics, colors, whatever, everything.
Okay. Anyone want to feed off of that one? Or let's see, I didn't see who chimed in first. Erica, did you want to add to that, or?
You need to decide what the video is supporting and make sure that it's the best method for delivering the information.
Okay, yeah. In fact, the first 2 sections of the article kind of boil down to this: is your plan. So you want to make sure that the video is the best solution. What kinds of things did they point out? Like, why would video be better, or why would video be not so good? Does anyone want to take that, Kathleen, or who's got hands up there? Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
From a positive side, it's the fact that it is multimedia. You're hitting a couple different learning channels at the same time.
Yeah, so it's one of the things that video does, maybe obviously, but it's worth saying, is that it's engaging your user in multiple modes simultaneously. It can be audio, coupled with moving images, coupled with still images. You can support an image with text and at the same time have a voice reading that text or explaining the image. So yeah, it definitely offers, that's probably the biggest thing that it offers over, say, a still graphic, is that it does allow you to present in multiple modes simultaneously. All right, what else can we add on to this? Who else? Melissa?
I was gonna say for on the not so good side, video is more of a passive learning, and research has showed that active learning is the best way to go in terms of processing and internalizing material. So you just want to be careful that if you are going to give a video, that the learner is engaging actively somehow with the video, and that it's not too passive for them.
Right. Yeah, and that's a great thing from the article, is pointing that out. I think people maybe get into the mindset that because a video itself is active, that it engages your learner in an active way, but that's not necessarily the case. Just think at how watching things on TV and the sort of the image of the young child parked in front of the television all day. It's really it can be a very passive activity unless there are things that you're doing very deliberately or purposefully to make sure that the student is being engaged. And maybe that's a matter of making them know ahead of time that they're going to have to use the content in a particular way, or ask them to do something as they're watching the video. Go ahead, Sandy.
No, I was just going to say something like with the video. I don't know if this was said because I unfortunately had to leave the room for a second, but when you're doing the video, like she was just saying, you should also add other things to it. So don't just have the video, so that you're using, you're addressing the two channels, both auditory and visual,
Mm-hmm.
and that the person doesn't get that cognitive overload, where they get bored or overloaded, to have like a variety of ways of teaching.
Yeah.
Video.
Yeah, that whole concept of cognitive overload sort of came up in the simplification stuff. But yeah, and there's a lot of brain theory involved with this. But basically, with when we talked about the Gestalt last week, what that basically was pointing out is that when we as humans see an image, we tend to simplify that image into one thing that we're processing all at once. So we like to simplify because the channels that information gets into our brain and the way we process that is limited. And so if, say, visually there's a bunch of things on the screen, but only two of them really relate to what you're trying to address, all those additional visual elements are going to overload the visual. So you want to make sure that you're engaging on all fronts, but at the same time being careful about overloading. So you want to make sure you're planning your setting deliberately and so on. Let's see. Kathleen, do you have your hand up there?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's showing up on my screen. I didn't know if that was new or old. All right. Any other things? There was sort of one more major area that they addressed in the article. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Kind of as an extension of planning. I mean, it's really planning out your design for the video and scripting it out and making sure that you know that you're going to hit the appropriate lesson topics.
Yeah, exactly. So the first little bit, in fact, they stress the importance of actually having a script and storyboarding your movie ahead of time. And that's a step I've seen so many instructional videos where you just feel like they said, "Oh, I'm just going to turn the camera on and talk about this thing for 5 minutes or so," but it becomes apparent that they didn't really have a clear idea of what points they wanted to hit, when they wanted to hit them, what sequence they wanted to hit them in. So scripting and storyboarding are two key things that you can do, sort of in addition to normal instructional design types of activities, specifically related to video. The idea of storyboarding and making sure that you're scripted. It doesn't mean with a script that you have to say everything word for word, but at least script it out to the point where you know what sequence you want to talk about things in, and make sure that you don't leave anything out, or that things are in a confusing order. And the storyboard can help with that too, in terms of just quick little sketches of what do you want them to be seeing on the screen. There's a lot of resources out there, even in Word or things like that, where you can create quick storyboards and scripts and use them. All right, so yeah, that was definitely a key thing. There's still one more main topic. Brian McDonald.
Yeah, I just wanted to address the last part of the article where it talked about the importance of making videos engaging, and this can go on to the add to the cognitive overloading part, where if you making a video more engaging, it could allow the viewer to watch the whole video, as well as being able to respond to follow-up questions after the video, and then not get too overloaded where they won't be able to watch the entire video in full.
Sure. And what was one of the key strategies, or one of the things that they said really helps with engagement when it comes to videos?
The first thing it said was making shorter videos, so videos that are not too long.
Yep. Okay. So short. So that gets into segmentation, which also can apply up in the planning stages. Segmentation. I have a hard time typing and talking at the same time. And then there was also one other thing. Melissa, maybe, are you?
Yeah, they actually mentioned, and this made me think of the pedagogical agent. I don't remember if it was this class or the other 520 classes mixed up, but where you can personalize it, use conversational language to be more engaging, so that use your tone, excitement, so you're not like monotone. It's not like a computer generated voice.
Yep.
Those are a couple of ways.
Yeah, so just literally getting yourself, or a human being, or an animated agent into the video can do a lot. I mean, we have, again, as humans, we pay attention to faces. It's something that just draws us. So if you can put yourself on the screen, or somebody else, if you're not comfortable being on the screen, or using something that would allow you to create some sort of an animated character for the screen, then those can also be really strong ways to engage. Yeah, and the conversational thing is interesting too, because from one perspective, you might think that it would be better for a student to kind of talk in a formal way that's very clear and precise and organized. But what we found is that we actually respond a lot better if you just feel like a person's talking to you, like they're sitting there with you and just chatting. So you can actually sort of go overboard with over planning and over scripting, or at least over presenting content, that they find it actually does work a lot better just to use a normal conversational tone, and so on. So, all right, what else? Anyone else want to add to what we've got here? Things to think about? So one thing, and part of the reason I wanted to make this a page on the wiki, so that you can come back to it later on as a review or a reminder, is to also point out what are the ways that you can achieve each of these things, if we've kind of broken it down into planning, simplifying, and engaging. And we've covered some of these. I mean, the script and the storyboard, that is definitely something, if you're working on a video, that you want to make sure you have some sort of a plan ahead of time. And in addition to, figuring out instructional design wise, what's the problem you're addressing, who's your audience, that sort of stuff. Specifically related to videos, do your planning. Take the time to type up a little script. Take the time to sketch out a couple of storyboards, even if you're not much of an artist, which I'm not. Just quick little sketches of what you think should show up there. And always the ID plan, getting those in place also, rather than just jumping into making the video. In terms of simplifying, I think we covered a lot of the things here. A lot of the simplification elements actually can go back to and draw from what we were talking about last week with the Gestalt principles. You want to really be deliberate about everything that shows up on the video. You want to make sure, if you're using music, that it supports the video. If you've got somebody talking, make sure that you can hear their voice well. That might have to do with where the camera sits or using a microphone. Making sure that you're not overloading the viewer in terms of lots of different fonts, lots of different colors. If you're going to use a graphic style, make sure that you sort of stick to a graphic style and not have every scene of the video look like it comes from a different design house. So all of those sorts of things. So maybe thinking about, I'll just sort of put down Gestalt since we went over that last week, but all of those visual design things. They pointed out in the article, pointing things out, grouping things together, so that your viewer knows what they're supposed to be paying attention to at any given time. So really be intentional. I guess that's another word I like to use. Really think about everything. Don't leave anything to chance. And then in terms of the engagement, again, the biggest things were about personalizing it, making sure that your viewer or your student feels like, if you're not there, that you are, at least through the video, or that they're interacting with another person, and that'll help keep them engaged and hopefully get them through and help them pay attention to the content a little bit more closely. All right, so some things, sort of a framework as you go and you're maybe creating videos for your Moodles. Think about some of these items. We're going to be, like I said, working in groups here to analyze a couple of instructional videos. So you'll see some of these things in process, and maybe get a sense of things that you could do to improve, or just things to be aware of. So what I'm going to do is now go back, and I'm going to talk about, save this page. Oh, that's interesting. I guess I was there for longer than I thought. Oh, you're kidding me. All right, I'm going to have to recreate that, because here is a case. I was sitting on this page for too long and it timed out. So I'm going to have to go back and recreate that. It happens. So let me just go back to the activity. All right, so the actual activity itself, as I said, you're going to be working in small groups. Each group has a video that you will be watching. You're going to start by just watching the video. I've provided chat rooms in the Moodle, like we did a couple weeks ago, if you wish to use them as a way for your group to communicate with each other. If you want to use some other means, FaceTime, Skype, whatever else, feel free to. But you do have the chat rooms that you can use. You'll be discussing the video with your group, and really from three perspectives. What worked in the video, so what things in the video seem to actually come together, help instruction. What didn't work so well in the video, And that can be from any perspective. It could be from the design of the video to the execution of it to the recording of it. It could be artistic choices in the video, things that that didn't work well together. So that'll be a second page of commentary. And then the third page is going to be some suggestions. So if you were working with the people who created the video, if you were advising them, what sorts of things might you suggest to them in order to improve the video somewhat? And then you're going to be, as a group, putting your reflections on 3 pages in the wiki in those 3 things. So there are 3 people in each group. So one way to do it might be to get together, discuss everything, and then have one person do each of the 3 pages in terms of writing it up. So let me talk a little bit about Wiki. Wiki itself, actually, there's not a lot different. It is mostly about editing text, as you saw. The one difference is how you create pages and link to pages. So I'm going to go into this first page and go into editing mode for it. Ooh, what just happened? I think it has me still editing this page. So the way that the wiki works is, if you look, for example, right down here, when I created this page, there was no page for group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. I needed to create them. The way the wiki works is that if you put text inside these double square brackets, should be on your keyboard up on the row with the I, the O, and the P, and then immediately to the right of that. They're the square brackets, not the curly brackets or the parentheses. But if you put 2 square brackets on either side, then the wiki will create a new page if that page doesn't exist. So if there is not a page already called Group 1, it will create that page. If there is a page already called Group 1, then it will become a link to that page. So you always have to start by putting this in somewhere with the name of whatever the page is in the middle of it. Then that will create the page. And then when you click on that link, it will allow you to go in and edit it and add content and so on. So up here, for example, that summary page that we were just on is right here. It's got the double brackets on either side. So when the page displays, that shows up as a link. It doesn't have the brackets on it. And down here where each of the 4 groups is, those show up as links now. The first time you create it, the text will be red, telling you this page has been created, but nothing's been put in it yet. So the first time you create a page, you'll need to go in. And actually, I'll do one right now just to show you. So I'm just going to put in a page right now that doesn't exist, and I'm going to just call it test page, double brackets on either side. When I hit save, back in the main page now, it shows up in red, telling me that that page is being created, but there's nothing in it yet. When I click on the page for the first time, it's going to ask for a title. You can give it a new title if you want to, but it'll just take the text from the previous page if you wanted. Leave it as HTML format, and then you simply click Create Page, and that will take you into where you put in your actual content. And at that point, it's just like doing any other text box with formatting the text and so on. So if I hit save on this page now is test page, and the content just says content. So if I go back to the previous page, just go back to the So now that page is no longer red because now there's something on it. And if I click on that, it will now take me to that page. All right. So really that's in terms of working with the wiki, the only new little thing is those double square brackets. If you want to create additional pages in order to organize content, double bracket the name. When you come to the page, when you save it and come back, the text will be red. Click on that and say create the page. And then from that point on, that page now exists. And then if you want to make links to any other page, put the names of those pages in square brackets on the page you're creating, and that will then create a link back to other pages. Have I explained that well enough?
So, Professor Miller,
Yes.
when we're creating our wiki pages to respond to what we think about the video, you said we have to have 3.
Yes. So yeah, so here in the
So
instructions.
where do they go? So like, do we go up to the top where it says edit, and then we would put it next to our group?
What you'll do is go into your group page. So for instance, if you're in group 1 here, you would go into group 1's page. Group 1 page, here's their video.
Yeah.
And then this page you would go into edit. And
okay.
I've already given a text that says links to analysis pages. So you would go into edit, and then down here is where you would put in the links to the 3 pages that you're creating.
Okay.
So it's the same idea as creating a website. So this allows you to create content that's in kind of a hierarchy.
Yes.
So they can link into a homepage kind of a thing, link to sub-content from there. Those sub-content pages can have sub-content pages. So you always put the links on the page where you want the link to go from.
Okay.
Does that answer?
Yes.
Okay. So so each group, like I said, I've already created your overall group page. Qualify the 3. Yes. So Brian, to your question, in step 5 here in the directions, I'm asking you to name the 3 pages, group, and then whatever your group number is, strengths, and then group and whatever your group number is, weaknesses, and group number and suggestions. So that way everybody's pages will have unique names, because it'll be group and then the number of your group, and then strengths, weaknesses, and suggestions will be the 3 pages. And then obviously each of those pages is where that particular content will go. And this, I'm not looking for an essay here. So this could be on the strengths and weaknesses. It could be a bulleted list of things. Same thing for suggestions. This isn't meant to be a full multi-page analysis of each of these videos, but just to kind of get you in the mode of looking at an instructional video, analyzing it, seeing whether you believe it's effective or not. And if not, then why, and what could you suggest to do differently? And that way, as you're creating your own videos, you've got all of that in the back of your mind in terms of analyzing what you're doing. All right. So the only thing I need to change, because I believe we have one person not here tonight, and that's Dorota. So group 1, I have 4 of you in there. Does anybody in that group want to volunteer to go to group 2, just so that all of the groups have 3 people in them? And then I can make that change. Sandy? Okay. So yeah, Sandy, why don't you go to group 2 in place of, in fact, I can do this right here. Come in here and we'll move Sandy down to here. All right, so that'll just rework the group so that every group has 3 people in it. You can decide how you want to create the pages, but like I said, I kind of thought with 3 pages being created that once you've discussed your content and what you want to put on there, that each person can take 1 page. One person will have to do the editing of your home page to put the links in. But then once those links are created, the 3 people in the group can each go to their own page and be editing their own individual pages. So that'll be that. All right, so again, just recapping, you've got your groups, you'll go to your group page, you'll watch the video. Come back, either use the chat room that's in the Moodle for your group or some other means if you wish to. Discuss what you thought about the video, what worked, what didn't, what you would change, and then come back here to the wiki and create your 3 pages and put in the content for your reflection on them. So instructions clear enough? Everybody know what they're going to be doing? Thumbs up. Yes, good. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So timing wise, because this will take a little while, the videos, I tried to get videos that were all roughly the same length. They're in the 4 to 6 minute length, so they're not going to be terribly long. But by the time we watch the videos and then get a good chunk of time to discuss and then get some time to type up your findings, I've got a little after 6 o'clock right now. Why don't we aim for 6:50, 6:45-ish? Why don't we say 6:45? Does that sound reasonable? That's 40 minutes. And if we get to 6:45 and a group still needs more time, just let me know, or you can drop a line in the chat room at any point if it looks like it's taking you a little more time. And also in there, again, I want you guys to get a bit of a break too. So if your group decides to take a break in there, actually with the break, why don't we say 6:50? We'll push it out to 6:50. Make sure you get a little time away from the computer. And I'll just keep monitoring. I may be away from the keyboard a little bit, but I'm going to keep the room open and I'll keep monitoring the chat and the wiki in case anyone has any issues or questions or concerns or anything as they come up. All right. So let's look at some instructional videos and see what we think of them and how we would suggest to improve them. And I will see everyone back here as a group in 45 minutes.